No. How about drums?
In late September, 3 Rollins Plants posters were found to be the target of hateful vandalism. Other instances of hate speech and discrimination have become more apparent in recent days. In response, the Office of Multicultural Affairs has organized a discussion tonight about that hate speech.
I think the greatest injustice that this campus has seen in the past is that these events have happened and we haven't spoken up and out against them, which is why these events continue to occur.
I know last year there was an extreme incident of homophobia that caused a student to leave after he had already come to Rollins and left because of homophobia. He came back to try again, and he only lasted a month.
And all of my friends would sit there and go, wow, this is so racist. But no one would do anything. So sure enough, one night he was in my room, and I just told him, I said, look, you are not welcome in my room if you keep talking like this. And he didn't even realize that his jokes were racist or that they were wrong. So what I would challenge everyone to do is the next time that you hear racism or anything that just bothers you, grow a spine and tell someone.
One action of hatred, prejudice, or injustice is too many actions of hatred, prejudice, and injustice.
I think that my challenge to students and faculty and staff who came is to put your money where your mouth is, and I think engage in further dialogues and create some action plans for moving forward and making progress.
Well, it looks like tonight was a very successful meeting. Many differing viewpoints were discussed, but ultimately tonight is only the first step in the long journey to making Rollins a better place.
At Rollins, and I guess in the country as a whole, and probably across the world, a lot of people have this mindset where I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, I'm not homophobic, but at the same time, through their actions or inactions, they're still perpetuating oppression to different social groups. And I want to educate people on how to, instead of just not being oppressive, how to become anti-oppressive and to combat it.
I just wanted to stay in my dorm because I didn't want to feel so different. You know, my family didn't really have all the money that I felt like everyone else had on campus, and I just felt really out of place.
People never really said negative things to me. It's just like a feeling where you just feel like you don't belong here. Like it's just, you don't see yourself in anyone else. That's how I felt like the first couple of weeks. Like there was nothing I could relate to for some reason. I just felt out of place.
Because I grew up in Winter Park, I kind of knew what life was more than like to be like on Rollins campus. But it was just really, really overwhelming.
I felt just like I didn't fit in for a very long time, and I remember thinking almost daily, actually me and my roommate, who was my best friend, that we wanted to transfer out. I didn't make a whole lot of friends my first year, and but the difficulty with me wanting to transfer out is that I couldn't tell my parents that I would do that. They wouldn't understand that. I just couldn't let them down like that.
I was in high school, senior year, everyone was like, oh, you're going to Rollins. That's gonna be sort of weird. We know, like, people were like, oh, it's a predominantly white school, everyone has blonde hair.
And going to like Winter Park High School was relatively diverse, and then coming here, it was just like, it was very strange because it was like a lot of the same people. And so, like in the rush of things, I was kind of felt like I was like sticking out like a sore thumb a little bit, and like, it was just like, it was a little awkward at first, for sure.
It's just people's grasp of like the world is just so completely different. Like they think that everything is just all hunky-dory, and it's really not sometimes. Like I don't know how to describe it.
Constantly feeling isolated as one of the few sort of out queer voices on campus, because it means that I have to speak up for an entire community that may or may not even be present or may not even want to be known.
When I came to Rollins, a lot of people expected me to fit in. They expected that I was doing well. No one thought really to check in with me and see how I was doing. And I remember my first day walking into my first class that day, and I was looking around the class to find faces of color, just students that I would be able to relate with. And it was just very difficult for me. I felt like I was in a sea of white, and I felt isolated to some degree. And no one really took the time to reach out and talk to me because I was fair complexion, and I am mixed race. So yeah, that was my experience.
There were a few instances my freshman year when people would be like, oh, so what are you? And I'm like, well, I'm a mix of things. My parents were born in Haiti, and they're like, oh, okay, so you're like half black, half white. And I'm like, no, that's not what I am at all. I have families from Lebanon and France and maybe some African descent maybe, but I don't know. And they're like, oh, well then you are half black and half white then, some kind of pure white. I'm like, that's not the issue. So, it was just very frustrating to be dealing with such a great and amazing community of people and then have people like that, which, in life you'll always deal with those kinds of people, but it's still just kind of awkward and off-putting.
I've had positive experiences and I have had negative experiences. The more positive experiences are when people acknowledge that, they may not be familiar with my cultural background and they'll ask questions.
I think I've seen some students marginalized at times with just a really well-placed fag or dyke.
A senior who's obviously now gone when I was a freshman said to me, the people who are your friends at night are not your friends in the daytime.
A lot of times professors in class when students would make comments that I thought were borderline racist or ignorant, professors didn't correct them, and so I thought I was alone in that. But I think now, especially starting my junior year, I just broke through out of my shell and I started talking about them.
I met a lot of people who thought I was interesting and pretty and cool, and they wanted to hang out with me some more. And I tried to approach them the next day at school, and they pretended they were on the phone, they were texting someone, they had to go away. So it was really embarrassing, one of those learning things.
That just looking back at my entire time at Rollins, I think that the only thing that I can honestly use to describe it is experience, because that's what Rollins has been, just experience after experience. And I think that some of those experiences have been bad and some of those have been truly amazing.
I don't think I could have done it without the Office of Multicultural Affairs. I mean, maybe I would have graduated, but my experience would have been so sad. And I don't think that any school wants to say that they want people to graduate from their institution and not feel that they really got something special out of it. And I think that for me, I found that through the Office of Multicultural Affairs.
How do we get them to feel that they belong in this majority group? Because when we're talking about Rollins, it shouldn't be minority students over here, here's the black students, here's the Hispanic, and then here are the white students, here are the ones who belong. The ones who this was their place already, we didn't have to do anything for them. Because I think that every student coming into college has issues. We all have struggles that we have to go through. So how do we make the minority experience a part of the entire Rollins experience?